Welcome back. We're joined once again by Bowe Bergdahl, Nick Robertson, and Aaron McPike at the White House. We want to continue to talk about Bowe Bergdahl, the U.S. sergeant who was picked up today by commandos. So, Aaron, let me start with you. There's a lot of talk and a lot of controversy, even though this is a day of celebration, certainly for the families and those who know and love Bowe Bergdahl, but a lot of controversy surrounding the fact that there was an exchange made for prisoners from Guantanamo prison. So can you just bring us up to speed on who's saying what about this whole controversy right now?
Absolutely, Randy. We did get a statement earlier today from Senator John McCain, who himself was a prisoner of war for about 5 years in Vietnam. And he said, of course, while he is thrilled that Bowe Bergdahl is safe, he also expressed some concern, saying he's eager to know from the White House exactly how this exchange went down. Then we got a much stronger statement from House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Rogers, a Republican, who a very important voice on this as well. And he said, I am extremely troubled that the United States negotiated with terrorists and agreed to swap 5 senior Taliban leaders who are responsible for the deaths of many Americans. He went on to say that's a fundamental shift in U.S. policy, and it signals to terrorists around the world a greater incentive to take U.S. hostages. Now, obviously, that was not something that President Obama was going to address in the Rose Garden this afternoon when he was there with Bowe Bergdahl's parents, but I am certain that it's something that's going to come up for him again and again, and something he will have to address, especially at this time when he's drawing down troops in Afghanistan and talking a lot more about his foreign policy.
Aaron, thank you. Nick, what do you know about these detainees who were part of this exchange?
Yeah, they were relatively senior Taliban figures. One was the former interior minister. One was a former deputy defense minister. One was a former deputy head of intelligence. Another had been a governor in at least 2 different Afghan provinces. The Taliban, prior to 9/11, were fighting a civil war for control of the whole of Afghanistan. Taliban commanders and their military in particular were at the forefront of either doing that on the battlefield or making it happen with money. What we do understand about these 5 men is that they're not believed to have strong or Al-Qaeda links, that these were people picked up pretty much soon after September the 11th attacks. But what do we know about their intentions now? That's not clear. I know 2 senior Taliban figures who have been released from Guantanamo Bay in the past. One, the former foreign minister, the other, the former ambassador to Pakistan, who was a senior, one of the original Taliban leaders, if you will. Both of these men returned to civilian life, living in Kabul. They both told me they didn't want to end up back in Guantanamo Bay again. What were they doing behind the scenes? We don't really know, but they did seem to lead peaceful lives. Will these other 5 men do that? That's a question and a responsibility now that lies with the Qataris, who said that they are going to manage following them, are going to manage what they do while they're in Qatar.
So, Bowe Bergdahl, I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, how comfortable are you with these detainees being released and the assurances from the Qatari government that they'll keep an eye on them?
Well, I don't trust Qatar, but I think the point is these 5 detainees weren't directly involved in what I would describe as terrorism. They weren't part of Al-Qaeda. They had nothing to do with the 9/11 attacks. They were, as Nick said, they were policed up after we moved into the country. Describing them as terrorists, I don't think is completely accurate. So we're in a gray area here, and it is possible that 1 or 2 of them, or maybe all of them, will show back up in Afghanistan. But keep in mind that this war is winding down. We have to keep in mind, in the context of this release of Bowe Bergdahl, is that the drone attacks are tapered off completely. This thing is going away. We're going to get some sort of settlement, and I think we're just going to have to start talking to the Taliban whether we like it or not.
And Nick, to you, just I'm curious about the location, because CNN was able to confirm today that Bowe Bergdahl had moved between Pakistan and Afghanistan, was very likely in Pakistan for most of these 5 years that he's been missing and had been taken. What do you know about those areas?
Well, probably most likely he was held in North Waziristan. This is a no-go area for the Pakistani military, or much of it's a no-go area for the Pakistani military. Certainly a no-go area for U.S. forces, targeted to the point that they've only been able to establish themselves in small bases. A local reporter who I was working with last year in Pakistan had been to one of those training camps. It was literally training just a tiny handful of Taliban militants. There was another al-Qaeda camp nearby. Small walled compounds is typical, and those may have been inside any one of those walled compounds in that area that Bowe Bergdahl was being held. So it would be an area that the government forces, Afghan, Pakistan, US, couldn't get into readily, and certainly would have been potentially a high casualty rate had they tried to do it. Not only that, inside Pakistan, very hard for the US to actually physically go in there. So that's obviously, it seems, why he was moved to the border for this transfer.
Certainly a lot of challenges there. Nick, Bob, Aaron, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Coming up, my next guest was also kidnapped by terrorists, making him one of the very few people who can relate to Bowe Bergdahl. Veteran war journalist Mike Boettcher joins me live right after this.